Hey, I'm Josh and I run a VR YouTube channel, and I want to teach you how you can create your very own VR content and start your own YouTube VR channel. VR is hot right now, with some channels getting thousands of subscribers and some videos getting millions of views. This is our beginner's course, but the results will be outstanding. We'll be using Unity and Premiere Pro to create our project. Luckily, you can use both for free. By the end of this class, you'll be set to start your own YouTube VR channel and be a part of the growing trend of virtual and immersive reality. Now we are ready to preview our video in YouTube. We just have to select it, and once we click play, we'll see that we are in VR. If you wanna just go to 4K, it looks better. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me in this class. I hope that you learned, and I hope to see your projects uploaded and watch them. First, we're going to download Unity. Type Unity into Google, and then we're gonna choose click on download. And then we're gonna accept the terms, and we're gonna download the Unity Hub. Since I already had downloaded before, I'm gonna get this message, but I'll just overwrite it to show you guys. And then we're gonna run the Unity Hub. We allow access. And then when you first open Unity, you won't have a version of Unity installed. So what you have to do is add a version. You will add the latest one, which would be 2019.2.0 F1 at the moment of recording. And then you click next, and then you have to choose the Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2017 and documentation. And you click next, and then you agree to the terms, and then you're done. And by that point, you'll have Unity installed on your computer. Afterwards, I advise you guys to go back to Google, and then to get and then to look for Unity ID, and then create a Unity ID. Once you fill out your information and you have an ID, you will be able to download a lot of free assets from the Unity Asset Store, and this range from 3D models to environments which you can use in your games or virtual reality videos. We are going to be using Adobe Premiere Pro to edit the final rendered VR video from Unity. I recommend you get this free trial if you don't have Premiere. It comes with a lot of programs, including Photoshop. Now that we have Unity installed on our computer, we're ready to start a new project. We're gonna be choosing 3D, and then we're gonna type out Skillshare VR, and then you have to choose the file location where you want to save this project. Then we click create. We wait for Unity to load. Once in Unity, we are going to go ahead and go to the assets section, and then we're gonna right click and create 4 folders. We're gonna name the first folder characters. The second folder environments. Then we're gonna name the next one scripts. And the final one render textures. After this, we're ready to set up Unity for 360 video recording. To do that, we're gonna go into render textures, double click on the render textures on that folder, and then right click and then create render texture. And then again, render texture, and a final time render texture. We're gonna be naming the first one cube map underscore left. And for the settings, we're gonna change it to cube. And the size, we're gonna change it to 4096 by 4096. And this is going to be the resolution of the exported video. And it has to be an exponent of 2. So this is 2 to a power of 12, I believe. Now for the next render texture, we're gonna do cube map underscore right. And again, cube 4096 by 4096. And for the final one, we're gonna name it equirect, and it's gonna be again 4096 by 4096, but this time we're gonna choose from the drop down menu 2D. Once we have that, we click again on assets, and now we go to our we click on our main camera. We're gonna have to add a script to that camera, and don't worry if you've never used Unity before or are familiar with coding. I have provided the code for you guys and the script, and we're gonna be then once you download the script called create stereo cube maps, we're just gonna drag and drop to the scripts folder. Once it's there, you just drag and drop to the main camera, and then you click on the main camera, and you'll see now that the create stereo cube maps script appears. And now we just have to first click on the lock icon so that this inspector window doesn't disappear once we click on the assets. Then we're gonna click on render textures, and then we're just gonna drag and drop the appropriate texture with the corresponding section. Now we are ready to record VR videos. So now we are going to uncheck the create stereo cube maps script because this is very intensive on the hardware and it will slow down the computer. Now we're going to be downloading the game assets from the Unity asset store. We're going to click on the asset store tab and then search for zombie, and the first result that comes up, we're going to be using the first result that comes up. Now we need to import, download and import into our scene. Now we search for horror hospital, and we're gonna sort by price low to high. Again, a free asset is PBR hospital horror pack. Now we're gonna import, and then import into the scene. Now we're gonna keep everything tidy by dragging and dropping the zombies into the character pack and the horror hospital into the environment. Next, we're going to be setting up the scene. Now we are ready to set up the scene. We're going to drag on the environments folder all the way to the hospital horror pack section, and then we're gonna drag and drop the scene into our hierarchy, merging the scene into ours. Now we're gonna select the main camera, and we're gonna start learning how to move it around the scene and place it in the place that we want it to be for our scene. In order to do that, we're gonna click W and drag and drop through with the pointers. we can see in the viewport, in the scene view, what the camera sees in the lower right hand corner. When we have placed the camera in a place that we want it to be, we can go ahead and leave it there. Now to move around the scene, we can use the scroll wheel to go forward or back, and we can click the scroll wheel to pan. Alternatively, we can right click and press W to go forward, or right click and press S to go backwards, or right click press A to go to the left and D to go to the right. It depends. You can use either option. It's whatever feels most comfortable to you. Okay, so now we go up to the camera, and then we can see how we can still move it around. But now if you want to rotate it, you press E, and then you press the green marks in order to rotate it along the horizontal plane. We can point it at any direction, and once we choose a direction to point it at, we can leave it there. Now we're gonna be dragging our zombie into the scene. We're gonna double click the characters folder, and then zombie, and then prefabs, and then drag and drop the zombie into the scene. We can rotate the zombie by clicking E. We can move the zombie uh, with W, and then we can resize with R. Next, we're gonna be looking into lighting our scene. Now we're going to adjust the lighting to our liking. In order to do that, we're gonna click on the hierarchy on the directional light asset, and then in the intensity, we're gonna be lowering it. In order to look at all the lights available in the scene, we're gonna go into the hierarchy, into the search bar. We're gonna click on it, and then type out light. This will give us all of the lights in the scene. So now we can just select the ones we want to change. We're gonna be decreasing the intensity of this one and the intensity of the one in front of us to get a more moodier scene. After doing this, don't forget to save your scene as you go. After this, we're ready to start animating the scene. Now, I'm going to teach you guys how to do complex animations for those of you who want to have those in your project. First, we have to get another asset from the Unity asset store called Modern Zombie free. Once you download it, you import that into Unity. And once you import it, we have to rename it Modern Zombie to tell it apart from the other zombie we downloaded. And then we drag it into the characters folder. And then what we have to do is we click onto the Modern Zombie folder all the way to the Zombie Rig prefab asset. We right click and we show in Explorer, and then we copy the location of the file. Now we have to go into mixamo.com. This is a free program you can use if you just have to make a free Adobe account, and you can use this for free. This is where we're going to be rigging and animating our characters and also getting the motion capture data in order to animate them. Now what we have to do is upload our character. We just click upload character, select character file, and then we will paste the location that we previously copied, and we will go and choose zombie rig, and then we will open that, and then Mixamo will process the file, and it will automatically detect the rigging for our character. Once the character is processed, we click next, and next. And now we choose the animations we can search for here to add to our character. So we will do crawl, and then we will choose zombie crawl. Now we will choose in place so we can animate this movement in Unity, and then we'll click download. Now we will choose format FBX for Unity with the skin and 30 frames per second. Now we'll click download. Next we're gonna be looking up zombie, and we're gonna choose zombie idle. And then again we're gonna click download FBX for Unity with skin and 30 frames per second, and we're going to download. Now in Unity we're going to bring in the zombie animations we just downloaded. We're gonna drag them into the assets folder and then into the characters folder. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and open up the characters folder and click on this icon, and then go into the zombie crawl icon animation, and then you're gonna click Control D on PC, and then you're gonna do the same for the zombie crawl. For the zombie idle, we're gonna go to zombie idle, Control D. Now we're ready to animate our zombie using Mixamo and Unity. You're gonna go and get zombie crawl, select, and then we're gonna drop it into the scene. And then we're going to rotate. Now, as you can see, the character is missing the texture. How we can apply it is we're gonna go into assets, character, modern zombie, materials. Okay, so now we're going to texture our zombie with the materials. We're gonna select material 003 and drag it to the face. And now if you guys wanna see better, you can just turn off the light with this light icon, and this will allow us to see with more detail what we're doing. And material 5 on the shirt, and then albedo transparency for the arms, and we go to the back, and then for the legs we're gonna do zombie HQ material 4, and for the pants material 4 albedo. Now that the character is textured, we can turn on the light again. In order to add animation to the zombie, we're gonna go to our timeline, and then we're gonna drag and drop the zombie, rig zombie crawl into the timeline, and then add animation track. Next, we're going to right click on the timeline and then add from animation clip. And then we're gonna choose the crawl animation that we got from the file. And now we can test it by clicking on the spacebar, and we see that the animation is there. Before we move forward, we have to go into project, and then we have to go to the animation files that we got from the downloads, the zombie crawl and the zombie idle. We click both of them. We're gonna loop time and loop pose, so we're able to animate them with more control. Same with the zombie idle, loop time, loop pose. Now we go back to the timeline and we click play. We see that the animation is there. Now if you want to combine two animation clips, we can do that easily by just right clicking, choose from animation clip, and then we look for zombie idle, and now we just have to overlap the files, and if we click play or the spacebar, we'll see that both clips are combined. So with those two things, now we're able to basically animate the whole scene just by combining pre-made animations. We just need one key component, which is moving the zombie around through the scene. So in order to do that, we are going to drag and drop again the zombie rig into the timeline and then add another animation track. And now we're gonna choose the zombie, we're gonna press the red button, and we're gonna move him slightly. And now that we have a keyframe, we can just choose another time, like 2 seconds, and then we're gonna move him forward. And now we tested the animation, and we see that the zombie moves through both animations, the Mixamo one and the one we did in Unity. Now, if we want the zombie to stand up at 2 seconds, we just bring in the zombie idle, and both animations are combined. So now, we just hit again the red button to record, and now we click the spacebar to test our scene, and now we click play. So as you can see, you can do a lot of fine-tuning to get really accurate animations. For example, if you were to do the transition faster, or if you were to do the transition happen slower over time. Now that you know these fundamental concepts, you are able to animate very complex scenes inside of Unity. Now we are ready to start animating. To do that, first we're gonna go into Window, Sequencing, Timeline. We're gonna drag the timeline next to the console. Then we're gonna click the main camera, right click, and then create empty. We're gonna drag the game object up, and then we're gonna click it and rename it timeline. We're gonna click on the timeline tab next to the project window, and then we're gonna click make sure that timeline is highlighted, the game asset timeline, and then click create. We're gonna name it timeline, and now that we have a timeline, we can start animating. We can grab our main camera and drag it into the timeline window, and then add animation track. Okay, so now we just click on the record icon, and we click our camera, we click W to move it, and we just move it slightly to get a keyframe, and now we can move it to the final location that we wanted. We click on the gear first to switch from frames to seconds so that it's easier for us to know the time that it's going to take for the animation. Let's choose 5 seconds and move the camera to the front so it dollies in. So now we can test the motion by clicking the spacebar, and that might be a little too fast. So what we can do is first click again the record icon, and now go into Window and go into Animation and go into the animation window, and then grab the animation window and drag it next to the timeline. Now we go back to highlight the timeline asset, and then we can double click the main camera. Double click, and now what we can do is scroll back to zoom out in time and just drag out the last keyframe for it to go slower. And now we see that it's going slower. In order for us to see how that will look, we can just go into the game asset. But now we see that we have another camera view. In order to fix this, what we do is we go into search and then we search camera, and we see that the hospital scene that we imported has a camera of its own. So what we do is we select it and then we just click delete. Now we have the camera that we want. So now again, what we do, we go into the timeline and we click we click on the timeline, and now if we press pause, press the spacebar, we can see how the scene will play out. Now we're ready to record the VR scene. So what we have to do is go to Window and go to Package Manager, because first we need to get a free recorder app by Unity. Now we're gonna click on Advanced and show preview packages. Afterwards, we're gonna go all the way to the down and find the Unity recorder package and click on install. Now we click out of the package manager and then we go to the timeline, we right click, and now we see that we have an Unity editor recorder timeline available. We click recorder track, we right click and add recorder clip, and then we extend, we click and drag to the extent of our scene. Now we have to go back to our camera, main camera, and we have to check the create stereo cube map script. So since we're gonna be using it now, we go back to click on timeline to see the timeline again. Uh, we're gonna be switching the settings for the timeline. We're gonna switch the frame rate from 60 to 30. Afterwards, we're gonna click on the recorder clip. We're gonna switch from animation clip to image sequence. We're gonna switch to PNG for higher quality. We're gonna leave the name as is. You have to choose a new folder to save this VR experience to. From the capture, we're gonna change from game view to render target texture. From the drop down, we're gonna choose Equirect. And now we verify that the resolution is gonna be 4096 by 4096, which I believe is 8K, which is good for VR. And after doing all of this, we just click play. And now our experience is going to render out. And this will take some time, but afterwards we can move on to the next step in editing the scene in Premiere Pro. Now in Premiere, let's create a new project and let's call it Skillshare VR project. We're gonna leave the settings as they are. We're gonna click OK. Now in the import media bin section, we're gonna double click and we're gonna choose the file that we exported our image sequence to, and then click on image sequence and then open. Now we're gonna drag the file into the timeline sequence. Now, in order for us to watch this in VR, we're gonna have to click on the plus icon, and we're gonna have to drag and drop this toggle VR display into the tool palette, and then click OK. Now we click it and we see that it's in VR. Now we're gonna change the sequence settings. We're gonna change from 2997 to 30 because that's what we shows in Unity. And now 4096 is correct, but right now we're showing in a lower resolution for preview purposes because it's very intensive for Premiere. We click OK, but in the end we're gonna be exporting to the 8K resolution. And now we click OK. We click OK. And then we just render into out. Now we see that the video is in fact VR and it's working correctly. So now if you want to add titles or logos to the video, what you do is that first you import the image from Facebook, from Photoshop, and then you drag and drop the image above the video, and then you go to the effects and search plane to sphere. VR plane to sphere. We drag and drop into the image, and now we can just move it around by going into the settings, effect settings, and then rotate projection, and then projection pan, and then we can scale it also if you want on the settings. Make it big or small. Now again we render this into out. Now we are ready to export the sequence. So now we're gonna go into File, Export, Media. And the best export settings are match source first, then we leave it at H.264, preset, adaptive, high bitrate. Then we're gonna uncheck audio because there's no audio in the video, but there can be. We're gonna render at maximum depth, and then we're gonna check video is BR, stereoscopic, over under, and 360, 180. Then we're gonna use maximum render quality, and then we're gonna name the file and choose a location, and then we will click export, and then we'll be set to in the next video upload to YouTube. Now we are ready to upload our video to YouTube. We're gonna go ahead and click the create a video or post, and we're gonna upload our video. I'm gonna go ahead and make it an unlisted video. Now we're gonna wait for the video to upload, and while that does that, we just fill in our information. I'm gonna just call it VR project. Fill out the description and your tags. I'm gonna be making a new also class series on marketing your videos and getting the most web traffic to your videos to get the most views. If you're interested, please let me know in the comment section. After doing that, after filling up all information, we're just gonna click done and wait for the video to upload and process. Now we are ready to preview our video in YouTube. We just have to select it, and once we click play, we'll see that we are in VR. If you wanna just go to 4K, it looks better. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me in this class. I hope that you learned, and I hope to see your projects uploaded and watch them.